Shalom, shalom, Grand Rising, OCO, Halito. Welcome to the video. Welcome to the channel. I am your brother Daniela. Sorry, I'm up here messing around. Just turn. Whatever. Music gonna play in the background. Hopefully this music isn't copywritten music and get me flagged. But anyways, shalom, Grand Rising to you guys. Before I get into the subject of the video, I do want to tell you guys something more important, which is that, keep preparing. We see the signs, we see the times that we're in. The Most High is definitely, he's speaking to us. He's showing us that, hey, this is not time to go to sleep and fall back into the world in the sense of thinking that everything is gravy. That does not mean that you can't achieve your short-term goals and things like that. That doesn't mean that you can't still buy a house or get a car, things like that, because life will still go on. Even though things will get worse, life will still go on. You will have brothers out there that will use, all these fear tactics telling you, hey, there's no point in doing anything because the world's going to end. Well, I've been in this walk longer than a lot of these brothers that have YouTube channels, pretty big YouTube channels that people look up to. Been in this walk for over 10 years, close to 15 years. And I've heard that all before, about the world ending and all this stuff. There's no point in doing anything. And yet I believe that. I believed that when I was younger and I was immature in this walk. But yet here we are 15, close to 15 years later. There's brothers who've been in the walk way longer than that and thought the same things. And here they are, still here living in this society. So what I'm going to say is, don't give up on things that you do want to achieve in this life. There's nothing wrong with that. But at the same time, be smart. Pay attention, walk circumspectively. Look at the signs, listen to your Abba, listen to the Most High, and what he's telling you. Because you have other brothers out there too who will tell you not to prepare. They'll tell you, oh yeah, the world is going to end, but they're not telling you to prepare for that end. And, prepare spiritually, prepare physically, prepare with the goods and the materials you're going to need in order to survive. Say if shit hit the fan, you know what I'm saying? So just keep prepping, guys. Don't stop prepping because of what other people are saying. If you feel in your spirit, if the Most High is telling you in your spirit to prep, keep prepping. But like I said before, the most important form of prepping is preparing spiritually, having that relationship with the Most High. But with that being said, I'm gonna get into the subject of this video. And what I want to talk about is how there's this false rage right now with the Cleopatra, I think, series. I'm not sure if it's a series or a movie. People are upset because Cleopatra is being depicted as a so-called black woman. There's a lot of this false rage and all this stuff, And, I find it very ironic, right? This is probably the first time I've ever seen Cleopatra depicted as a black woman, right? In a movie or a series. Usually she's depicted as a white woman, a Middle Eastern woman, right? There's even an anime that depicts her as Japanese, right? Crazy thing is that, she can be depicted as every other race under the sun, except for she can't be depicted as a so-called black woman, right? And you have to ask yourself, why is that? Why is it that they have such an issue depicting her as a black woman? Why is there such a problem? And we know that most of this hysteria is goaded on by the powers that be, right? The puppet masters, the ones who are behind the scenes. They're the ones who tell people how to feel and people react in that way, right? So we know that this controlled outrage that's going on right now is being fed to the people by the higher ups. And the higher ups, we know that they know way more than the average person does. So my thing is this, while we're sitting here like, oh man, these people are racist. Yeah, a lot of these people are racist, but there's a bigger there's a bigger game at hand. And I think the reason why they're allowing this outrage to happen is for various reasons. It's to shut down the truth, and it's to further manipulate the people. You know what I'm saying? And I know that it's not just the average person who's creating this rage, this false outrage that we see in many different parts, of our society, right? It's created by the puppet masters, and it's feeding and feeding off of the racism that people have, the prejudice, the bigotry. It's feeding all off of all that, but I just think it's hilarious how Cleopatra and every historical person of importance could be depicted as white, Middle Eastern, Asian, what have you. But as soon as they're depicted as a so-called black person, they're upset, And it's so funny because a lot of instances, where we're saying, hey, this person is black. We could prove that these people are black, right? But they get so upset, and they can't say it. They really can't say anything, and usually they resort to name calling and being evil and things like that. Once when you prove them wrong, but the thing is, they did the same thing with Hannibal Burka. Several years ago, History Channel depicted him as a black man, even though he was more mulatto. They depicted him as Negroid, right? White people threw hissy fits, man. Northern African people threw hissy fits about the whole damn thing. And it's like, well, let's look at Hannibal Burka depiction in history. Let's look at the coins that depict Hannibal Burka. Boy looks straight up like a Negro, right? I shouldn't say boy, but that man looks straight up like a Negro, right? So it's like all this false rage. Cleopatra, she was an Egyptian. When you look at the Egyptians, how they depicted themselves, I'm not talking about the whitewashed images and statues, the obviously fake statues, and the whitewashed images. No, I'm talking about the real depictions of the Egyptians. These people were Negroid people, But our history is just a whole hijack, man. The history of the Romans, the Greeks, the Egyptians, a lot of that is false history. A lot of that is made up history. Yes, there's truth in there, but it's tainted truth. It's perverted truth. Just like with the Bible. There's truth in there, but there's quite a bit of perversion in there. Where our enemies have gotten a hold. See, well, a lot of our people don't realize, and what a lot of the average people don't realize, is that the wrong people they're ruling the world, and they are the ones rewriting history. A lot of this history that we've been taught, a lot of it's not true. And there's people like me who are studying and digging for that true history, right? And when people are presented with the true history, they fight it. They fight it tooth and nail. And I know that Netflix is, I know that they didn't put that movie out there for no reason. I'm almost certain that movie was intentionally put out there in a way that was so it can create this rage, right? And I feel like the reason why they want this rage is so that they can shut out the truth. So whenever they see us bring out any other people that were quote unquote black historical figures of importance, they'll be like, nah, see, this is just y'all blackwashing again. Because blackwashing is an actual phrase now. Whitewashing has been a phrase for decades, right? Well, now they're coming out with this phrase called blackwashing. I've only been hearing it for the past few years, right? But it's essentially the idea of so-called black people taking iconic historical figures and turning them black. And the funny thing is that damn near every person who we're saying is black was actually black. It's just that they can't accept the truth because they've been taught that they are the most important people on the face of the planet, and that the so-called black man is the least important, and that he's never achieved anything in life, in our existence. We've never achieved anything but to be slaves, So that's why it's so hard for them to swallow that pill. They can't swallow the pill that we are the indigenous people of Americas. They can't swallow the pill that we are the people of the Bible of the Bible. You know, we are the so-called Israelites. You know, not all of us. You know, they can't imagine that the so-called Israelites were Negroes. They can't imagine that the so-called Egyptians were Negroes, the Babylonians, the Assyrians, all those great nations, and all those kings and queens of importance, all those nobles. They were all Negroes. They can't imagine that. They can't imagine that the Roman Empire and the Greek empires were created and ruled by so-called black men. They can't fathom that at all because they've been lied to. They've been told their whole lives, you know, decade after decade after decade, that they are the most important people on the face of the planet. And I'm not just talking about so-called white people. I'm talking about all races of people, you know, because so-called white people, they'll let Asian people be great. They'll let so-called Arab people be great, but they will not let black people be great at all, you know. So they're in that same boat. You know, when I'm talking about they, I'm talking about your so-called Asians, your so-called whites, you know, your so-called um, Middle Eastern people too, and I may even throw in your Hispanic people too, because you know a lot of the culture that's over here in the Americas, my people created. So-called the Black American Aboriginal people, we created a lot of that culture, but then it was taken from us and given to the lighter skin folks. You know what I'm saying? It's the same thing with what Johnny Legmazano is trying to do right now with our culture. You know, it's the same thing white people have been doing to us forever, taking our culture, taking our identity, and perverting it and saying that it's theirs. We see that with all different types of music genres. I'm not gonna go through the list. We see that with so much that we create be taken from us and given to another people. Our identity stripped from us and given to another people. You know, and when we reclaim it, it's a problem. You know, it's a whole damn problem and a half when we try to take back our identity, right? You know, they say we're blackwashing. Man, y'all can miss me with that crap. I'm gonna still go out here and learn. I'm still gonna go out here and teach. I'm gonna still spread the truth. Ain't nobody talking crap who can't prove anything gonna stop me or other people like me from doing it. You know what I'm saying? But it's just hilarious how, you know, Cleopatra has been depicted as a white woman for decades in movies. Straight up white woman. And there's barely any outrage, right? You know, you have these Egyptian gods and nobility being depicted as white people, barely any outrage. But as soon as anybody of historical importance is depicted as a black person, boycott. It's a whole damn boycott, you know? Even if the characters is fictional, like Ariel, you know, like, yeah, I don't agree that they should have made Ariel a damn black person. They should have just made a completely new character. But it's just hilarious how, you know, people, non-black people, will fight over a character that's not even real. Not even real. But that's because they know the importance of identity and having, you know, that identification, know who you are, and being able to self-identify and to relate with that identity, you know. But I think it's hilarious, man. You could have depicted Cleopatra as an Asian woman. They wouldn't have cared. They wouldn't have been up in arms like how they are now. But yeah, it's so ironic. But yeah, you know, giving a little historical context. First of all, the true Egypt is not over there in the so-called Middle East. It's not over there. It's over here in the Americas, right? And the people who occupied that land that we call Egypt, they were so-called Negroes. You know, they were so-called black people. You know, and then on top of that, the modern day land of Egypt, that land itself was occupied by many different people. Occupied by many different people, and the original people of those lands were actually Negroes. Even though that's not even the real land of Egypt. The original people who did inhabit those lands were so-called Negroes. The so-called mixed group of people, the mixed, I want to say mixed breed for lack of a better term, but the mixed race people over there who occupy the area that we call Middle East and North Africa, those people are actually new arrivals. They didn't arrive there until like, I want to say like the I want to say like the 14th century, 15th century, your 1400s, 1500s. That's when they started to occupy that land during the reign of the Ottoman Turks, right? That's when those people came over and conquered those lands, and they mixed with the people of those lands. This is why a lot of the people of North Africa and Middle East, this is why they look biracial. This is why they look like your biracial person. Some of them have beards just as rough as mine, right? Some of them have straighter hair. Some of them are real dark. Some of them are lighter. Some of them have full lips. Some of them have skinny lips. They're a mixed race of people, you know what I'm saying? And they mixed in with the group of people who were there before. But they are not the original people. And then secondly, well, primarily, they aren't even the Egyptians, because Egypt is here in the Americas, not over there in the Middle East. So they can hoot, holler, and cry all they want, but they're not the real Egyptians, and they know it. They know it, but they're going to hold on to that identity. Why? Why are they going to hold on to that identity? Because it's lucrative. They make, I would probably say, billions of dollars every year off of that false identity of being Egypt. You know how much money they make in tourism? Come on. They're not going to give that identity up. If it was worthless, if that identity was worthless, they wouldn't even be perpetrating. Trust and believe. So anyways, I'm not going to talk too much longer. I'm trying to get into the house, so it's a nice day today. Probably take my son to the park, so. Sorry, let me turn this car. Okay, don't even got to turn on. That's cool. But anyways, yeah, guys, I'm about to be up out of here. I just wanted to talk about that real quick. I thought that was hilarious. They always gotta have a reason to be puppeteered and have false rage. So, but yeah, it can be anybody else, just not a black person. Anyways, talk to you later. Peace out. Shalom.